Are there marketing projects that you need done for your company, but you don't have enough time or people to help? Do you have a great business, but you're looking to scale? This episode is hosted by the founder of GetLeverage.com, Nick Sonnenberg. Leverage is the premier marketing platform that pairs you with a team of experts for any big or small project that you want to outsource. As an Olympic hurdler, Sarah Wells knows what it's like to meet obstacles along the path to achieving huge results. Not only is she now training for Tokyo 2020, but she's founded the Believe Initiative, which helps young children build personal belief by using passion as a fuel to solve problems. In this episode, Sarah tells us about her journey to the Olympics, her experience on the Amazing Race, and how anyone can build belief and resilience even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges.
Welcome back to the Leverage Podcast. Today's guest follows up with our sequence of Olympians. And today we have my other Olympian friend, Sarah Wells. So thank you very much for joining us today, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
So Sarah, unlike Jeff, Sarah is an active, she's still an active athlete. So we can all hear your story and cheer you on, hopefully in Tokyo. But yeah. Sarah, has a really interesting story and a new friend of mine. We've only been friends for the past year, but Sarah was in the 2012 Olympics in London. She's a silver medalist in the Pan Am Games. She's a 400-meter hurdler and has a very, very interesting story, a story of resilience and setbacks and overcoming obstacles. And she's also been on a TV show, which maybe we will hear about today, and runs a organization called the Believe Initiative, which is an organization that goes into high schools and teaches them about having resilience. And I'm not even sure what you teach them, so I'm curious to hear. But thank you very much for being on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we originally met at Giovanni's Archangel event in Toronto, and then you were a speaker at Craig Clemens' house at one of his events in LA that we randomly ran into each other, and you were one of the speakers. And is it a documentary or was that like a commercial on you that they were showing?
It's just kind of a highlight video of the Believe.
A sizzle reel?
Yeah, exactly.
Really well done. It looked like a full-blown like HBO documentary.
I know. I'm excited that you thought it was a commercial. Look at us.
Yeah. So how's running going? Are you actively training right now?
So I have been training for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, but I've been riddled with injuries a good chunk of my career. And recently an injury that I'll share about, like an injury that's been a huge part of my story has come back, and that's a stress fracture in my femur. And so a stress fracture is a deterioration of your bone from the inside out that eventually leads to a crack. And this isn't the first time I've had it. And so unfortunately it's here right now. I'm doing what I can to recover. But as you just mentioned, I am most recently just coming off filming a TV show, The Amazing Race Canada. And so being on The Amazing Race did not help my recovery. It was a little bit timely for me to be injured because it enabled me to say yes to the opportunity to be on The Amazing Race. But then, of course, running around all over with a backpack on your shoulders, like crazy stress, does not help for athletic recovery.
So is it just like bruised right now, or is it actually fractured again, the femur?
So it's actually it's at the point of like bone stress now. So where the crack is beginning to form, but basically the bone is inflamed, and with continuous repetitive motion of like training for my sport, it could like break in half. And so that's where they've kind of had me stop training. I can't do any more like hurdling or sprinting around corners, because as track athletes, we only turn left. And when you do that,
like Zoolander.
Yeah. You know me. Yeah, so then you over time just start breaking your bone.
I never thought about that. Is it your left leg that so is that because you always have to make a left turn on the track? Is that why the left leg is wrong?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like for sure that's the causation, but it definitely could be correlated given the fact that, yeah, you always turn left. And when I think about, especially as someone who lives in Toronto where the winters are miserable and you can't train outside, we're running on indoor tracks. And so a big track that you see like at the Olympics or whatever is a 400-meter track. So those corners are sharp, but not super duper sharp. Like you can get around them, like, you know, with minimum, like not minimal force, with limited force, kind of like taking you to the outside of the track. Versus on an indoor track, it's 200 meters. So those corners are like double, if not a little bit more than double as tight. And so you're trying to fight so many forces because you're running one direction as fast as you can. And then in about 7.5 seconds, you're running as fast as you can the other way. And so that's just a lot of force to battle against and for my bone to absorb.
Do they, in your training, have you sometimes run the other way to balance it out? So you're turning on your right leg to reduce some of the pressure on the left turn?
So in a base season, like foundationally beginning of the season where you're not really close to competition, it makes sense to do that. And we'll do a large chunk of our cross training in that, not cross training, but like our baseline training in a different direction. But as you get into the season, you have to be training specificity. Yeah. And so you have to turn left. And it's crazy how much your body like learns to be efficient in that one direction if you train it. Like in competition season, if I were to then go like, okay, well, I'm just going to go run an all out interval in the other direction, the time difference would probably be like 2 seconds, which is an absurd amount of time in the sport of track and field.
So timeline wise, one, do they have you swimming now then as part of your training then while you're to reduce the pressure, but keep you still in shape?
So funny story, I actually can't swim.
I could give you some swim lessons and you can give me some.
That's right. I need you. Yeah, so I can't swim really. Like I can doggy paddle, but like I don't put my face in the water. I've like always been afraid of water. And so what I do is I water run, which is again closer to training specificity. And so you like are sitting upright in the water and moving your legs up and down, up and down, up and down, as if you're climbing a Stairmaster, trying to keep your body above water. And it mimics the form of running. And it also is an incredible workout. And I'll run intervals like that because it takes a lot to like keep your body in head above the water.
Wow. When are trials? When are Olympic trials to determine the Tokyo team?
Olympic trials are in July 2020, so exactly a year, sorry.
Okay, so what are your thoughts? Do you think that that this is going to be a really big obstacle, or do you have enough time to recover?
So this is certainly going to put some strain on if it's possible, because I don't know how long it'll take. And as I mentioned, this isn't the first time I've had this injury. I had this injury back in 2011, the year before my first Olympics. And in 2011, I was told that the injury would take about 3 months to heal. And I was devastated because at that point I had actually never touched Olympic standard before. And so I had only ever run 56 seconds for the 400-meter hurdles, and I needed to run 55 seconds in order to qualify. And so when I got diagnosed with this stress fracture, I was like, wait, no. Like I need every day, every week, every month to improve this entire second. And when I sat out for those 3 months, it actually didn't recover in time. And so I then had to sit out another month and another month and another and another. And eventually I had sat out for 9 months before I was cleared to run. And it was devastating and heartbreaking. And everyone around me reminded me to remain realistic, because this was already an impossible dream. And I now had made it a bit more challenging on myself by sitting around for 9 months. And on my first day back to training, I decided to get the word believe tattooed onto my wrist. And if you can see the video, you can see it in here. And I got the word believe tattooed on my wrist because I knew over the course of those 9 months, like I could have quit. I had the story. Everyone would have understood. And I didn't. And I kept choosing to kind of like get back up. And so I said, when I make the Olympic Games, I will put the Olympic rings underneath this belief. I will look down at this belief until that moment and remind myself of everything I've already overcome in order to make this dream come true. And 6 months later, with the limited amount of time I had, I hit Olympic standard, I win Olympic trials, and I go to the Olympic Games. And so it blew my mind. And I saw how powerful believing in yourself was. And we hear it all the time, but I don't think like it truly landed for me of how powerful believing in yourself really can be. And so being in the exact same position the year before the 2020 Olympics is interesting because I know that if I want it, if I really, really want it, and I can get back within, if it's recovered within 6 to 8 months, I believe that if anyone can do it, it's me. But it does make it harder and harder because as my body gets older and I'm juggling more things now, like I'm not just an athlete, I'm speaking and I'm running the Believe Initiative, and there's just so many more demands on my time that if I were to get back in time with only 6 to 8 months, let's say before Olympic trials, I would have to be head down, 2 feet in, this is everything. And do I want all of that? Do I want to kind of like put a pause on some of the momentum I've created to be able to focus on this goal? And there's moments, I think, absolutely, like there's nothing better. There's nothing that fulfills me more than like running an incredible race and being like, wow, like I did that. My body did that. But then there's other moments when my soul feels so fulfilled by what I'm doing outside of sport now that I feel comfortable sometimes saying like, you know what, if it doesn't happen, if I don't recover in time, then I have something really great waiting for me on the other side. And so, yeah, the long-winded answer of saying like, I really don't know.
Right.
In 2020, but I'm staying fit through like my cross training and being in the gym and the water running and stuff because I need to stay close to the goal.
And when you come to New York, we work out now together in mixed martial arts. That was so cool that everyone at the end were like, Nick, who's your friend? She's pretty fit. And it's like, oh, it's just my Olympian friend. Don't worry about that. And it's like everyone got super interested.
Like sit down powwow.
Yeah.
Mixed martial arts, my new form of cross training.
So do you think that how do you build this resilience? Do you think that it's something that people can learn, or do you just think that this is something that is innate to you and it's because of this mentality that you have that's gotten you kind of to where you are in terms of being able to be in the Olympics? Or with the Believe Initiative and everything that you speak about, are there things that people can do to build their resilience, or is it really like you either have it or you don't?
No, I really think that resilience is something that can be built, and it does take a level of choice of choosing to build that and choosing to adopt a certain mindset. But it's not that you were born with an innate level of resilience. And I think so often we can let our circumstances define our outcome. We can assume that look, this is all of the resources I have around me. Like there's nothing I can do about that. And so, I don't even, what's the point in trying? But for someone who has a goal that's like really big, whether that's like start a business, grow a business, write a book, run a marathon, maybe potentially just like make a couple of like networking friends, like whatever that goal is, you have to be willing to overcome every single obstacle along your way in order to have that dream come true. And I think the only way you can do that is through your mindset, because there's going to be obstacles. And so you almost have to choose to get back up every single time, regardless of what that is. And so I think you build resilience in a few ways. One is I really encourage people to find their word or their phrase or their quote, whatever that is. And for me, that word was believe. Like I got it tattooed onto my wrist because it could remind me of all of the obstacles I had already been through. And it could remind me of the strength I had inside and could remind me to get back up, because in those moments where I faced a challenge, where the doctor said, no, sorry, not healed about my stress fracture, or I had a terrible race, whatever that was, I'd look down at that believe and I would just it would remind me to get back up. And so I challenge people to think about what is that word for them? Or it could be like a person or a thing or like a moment in time where it could be all encompassing of yeah, you know what? I do have the skills. I actually do have the like mindset that allowed me to be successful, and I just need to channel that in this moment. And having that word was so powerful for me, and I think really helps people build resilience. It helps them recognize that strength, like, is really how I see it. The second, oh yeah, sorry.
Well, do you think that it's the word, like everyone having a word that helps build resilience, or do you think that specifically your word of believing is really the word for resilience? Because if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be hard to be resilient.
I mean, I think the foundational element of believing in yourself is absolutely crucial. But I think it doesn't have to be the word believe, because someone might have the word strength, let's say, and that word for them is inspiring enough for them to say, like, yeah, I have strength, or I can be strong, and it's them believing in themselves, but just like through the channel of a different word that means more to them. And I think by personalizing it, by finding that word for you, or the word that symbolizes a moment in time or a person or something like that, it'll just be more powerful than saying the word has to be believe or it won't work, you know? But I agree with you that, like, the foundational element of believing in yourself has to be present along with that word, because
I would say you have to believe in yourself, but what about pain tolerance? You must have a very high level of pain tolerance too. Aside from believing in yourself, I would imagine that your pain tolerance is high.
I mean, there's got to be something for that, because I run the 400-meter hurdles, which is allegedly the worst event in track and field. So yeah, I'm a bit sadistic at times with my desire to be in pain in some of those workouts. The other thing that I suggest that people do to help build resilience is have conversations, like a ton of conversations, like finding people who inspire you and kind of show you what's possible. And that doesn't mean you have to, like, you know, if you're an introvert, like you're like, I hate meeting people, no way, like I can't do that. Then it's like, it's listening to podcasts, it's reading books, it's whatever it can be to kind of make that concept or that dream or whatever it is seem closer, like give you an insight into like what is humanly possible. And even if it's never been done before, you might see someone who's kind of like on the brink of that, or like has achieved something so incredible that you see as equivalent in a separate field. Like knowing the foundational elements of what they've done and who they are, I think having those conversations, feeling inspired by others is an incredible opportunity to help like foster that resilience. There's weird research of like seeing green helps build like motivation and inspiration, because it's like is a symbol of growth in our brains. And there's been a bunch of like, I don't know, brain scientists that have looked at that and shown that there's ways that we can seek inspiration and we can feel inspired. And I think by having someone in your life, or like I said, reading books or listening to podcasts and understanding kind of what is possible, then you can build that resilience, because it doesn't seem like this like aloof idea anymore. It doesn't seem like something that's like intangible and absolutely impossible. You start to bring it down and have that mindset of like, okay, like someone has done this, and maybe not even in your field, but like someone has done something equivalent in a separate field.
So when you had the major setback in 2011, did you take a look at other athletes that had similar kind of setbacks, or did you find some to be your mentor and ask them kind of how they came over it, or what was your process like when that happened for the first time?
So something that I did kind of unknowingly was that I had a training partner at the time, and he was a decathlete. His name is Massimo Bertocchi, and decathlon is, they do every single event. They do 10 events, they total it up, and then you get your score at the end. They're like super freaks of nature. Like they're incredible. They can run fast, throw far, and jump high. And he trained at the same facility I did, and I saw him, and we were kind of like two of the top tier athletes at our university. And I saw him train day in, day out. He had good days, he had bad days. Like he wasn't a superhero. He was amazing, but he wasn't a superhero. And he actually made the Olympics in 2008. And I think because I knew him and he was a person in my life, seemed like a human being, when I got hurt and it was the year before this Olympics, this like thing that I had put in my mind of like, oh my God, like I have to do this. Having him in my life and like knowing that he had done this before and he wasn't a superhuman, like it made it seem like, okay, you know what? Like regardless of this happening, I recognize that like not everything has to be perfect in order to make this dream come true. Because I saw him 4 years ago have, you know, maybe not as devastating of an injury, but small injuries and small blips in the road, and he still made it happen. And so by seeing that, it brought me back from like spinning down that dark spiral of like, I can't, I'll never, this is terrible, it's over, and helped kind of bring me back into, you know what, it's possible.
So it's kind of like, as you're saying that, I'm kind of imagining like a light at the end of the tunnel. Like you have to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that could be, hey, making the Olympics, but you're also able to like reduce the distance or the length of that tunnel, because in this case, there was someone close to you and you kind of already knew that you were at that level where you're about to make it to the Olympics. So you see the light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel's actually not that far. It's like, it's tangible. So I guess you have a goal that's tangible. And I guess those are two ingredients, it sounds, in order to, I guess, increase your resilience. Because if it's like, you know, if it's me, for instance, if I break my femur and it's like, hey, I want to go to the Olympics, the tunnel's a little bit too far, but.
Right. And yeah, like, of course there has to be like, I mean, and like, I will also say you were a very high level competitive swimmer. Like, I have no doubt that if you chose to do something of really high caliber, like maybe it's not the Olympics at this level, but like,
so funny you mentioned swimming. So he's passed away now, but Charles Poliquin, who was big in like the biohacking and health space, we were both part of Joe Polish's Genius Network group. And I asked him, I'm like, look, I was swimming 4 hours a day. I hit this kind of level, but I'm like, do you think like if I would have had the right coaching and like just trained with you and you told me what to eat, when to eat, and I worked out like however many hours you tell me, like, do you think that I ever could have made the Olympics? And he looked at me and he's like, no. he's like, you're like 5'9". You're like, you don't have a chance no matter what you say. I was like, oh man.
Bubble burster.
That's all right.
And like, I get that, you know, genetics play a role, and like, you know, as hard as I try, I'm not going to be Usain Bolt. Like, frankly, that's like the way that it is. But I might achieve a level, and you might have done something that blew this coach's mind if you did do all of those things. And you said like, no, regardless of these circumstances, my physical capabilities, if anyone can do this, it's me. I believe in me. I have no doubt that you would surpass what he thought you were capable of. And
no doubt.
And I think that's the element where it's like we're all in this pursuit of like peak performance, and obviously we have this big goal at the end of the tunnel that's like the thing, but like as much as the end goal is what we're after, if we choose to believe in ourselves, we will find a strength and show ourselves like a different possibility or like a new height for who we are, and potentially even like find a different, like we still get the same outcome of like whether it's fulfillment and success, or it's recognition, or it's inspiring others, or it's an opportunity to share our story or be a mentor or be mentored. Like I think you can still get those at its core definitions of success that isn't the goal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard sometimes because we really idolize achievement. And what I say in a lot of my keynote speeches is that you don't build self-belief through achievements. You build self-belief through action. And I think it's because it's that choice of choosing to get back up, of finding that word, of like constantly living that word. Like that's a choice, that's an action, like seeking inspiration, creating a network of like a village, that's there supporting you, reminding you why yesterday you said you could, when today, for some reason, you think you can't.
But is it really just action? Because like, what if you continuously take action and you keep failing or you're not achieving? After like 100 actions, if you keep not hitting what your goal was at some point, are you going to get a bit burnt out or lose that belief?
You might get burnt out, and you probably will lose that belief. But I would then challenge that person to think about like, okay, yes, the goal was the Olympics, but why did you want to be an Olympian? And someone might say like, to make my parents proud of me. I'm like, okay, well, like, what would making your parents proud of you look like? It's like, oh, well, they would maybe like they would say it, or they would be there in those, like, they would be there in the stands at like that big moment or whatever. And it's like we distill down to the fact that maybe success is actually just like feeling recognized or feeling supported, and it's like, okay, well, even if you didn't get the big goal, maybe you can still find that in a moment where you were like, you allegedly failed, where like maybe his parents were still in the stands that day. Maybe they probably like still said, like you did it. You went out there, you gave it your all. And so it's like, you just have to then recognize success in the points of action, in the pursuit of the goal. Because hard work isn't always going to lead to success. But being resilient, getting back up, choosing to believe in yourself will always lead to another opportunity for success. It might not be in the capacity you originally thought. It might not be the Olympics, but maybe you take that same drive and that same like discipline and you channel it over to starting a business. And then you know what? You found your definition of success in a different capacity. And that doesn't mean you are a failure. That doesn't mean you aren't like worthy of recognition and like having your parents be proud of you. But you had to find a different path that was right for you. And that's unfortunate because you will get burnt out along the way. And you might feel super defeated and deflated and think like believing in yourself doesn't work, but it does. It's just a matter of like, you will find that core element of that success if you keep choosing to get back up, keep choosing to believe in yourself. And it just might come in a different capacity.
No, I can really relate to it. I used to think my unique ability was math and that type of stuff. And then after being an entrepreneur, I realized it's really just a super high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Tokyo before?
I haven't. I have not been to Tokyo.
So I used to live there. I lived there for 2 years. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, you told me.
I left Tokyo like 10 years ago, and just last month, for the first time in 10 years, I went back and I saw what they're building there for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And do you know if the track is indoor or outdoor that they're building?
Outdoor, but it'll be so big that.
Okay. So I don't know if people, if I were in the runnings for the Olympics, I would consider going to Tokyo next month in August so you can experience what Tokyo is like in August. It is not fun. Like, I feel bad for people that have to run outdoors in August in Tokyo. It is humid. It is, but like a different level even than like New York humidity. I mean, it's like disgusting.
Next level. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, I don't know how people like properly train for a Tokyo outdoor run, because like that is brutal.
Well, a lot of times at the Olympics, they put stuff so late at night. I mean, one for TV because that's on during the daytime on like Western world. But then also because you wait for the sun to go down and things get cooler, and wind is always like, as we all know, in the evening, it like kind of really settles down, and you don't want wind because then you like for the 100 and 200, a wind over 2.0 wind reading is an illegal time. And so you try to like make as many of those times count as you can.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. But
right.
Interesting to know. Good to know. I'll have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, if you can make it over there, and like if you like sushi, it's awesome there. Yeah, just be ready for some humidity there.
And I want to touch upon this based off our, like, before we wrap up, the concept of if you keep on going and you fail, like, do you lose all self-belief? And because, like, I've just shared this story of overcoming this obstacle in 2012 and then making the Olympic Games and like having it go exactly as planned. And it was awesome. Like, I got the tattoo, put the Olympic rings underneath, and I was like, hey, look at me. I did it. This is awesome. But the Olympics comes back around every 4 years. And I had been like getting external signs that I was doing better and getting better, and had won a medal at the Pan Am Games. And I only lost to the number 1 ranked girl in the world in that race. And so that showed me like, okay, I'm ready to win an Olympic medal at the 2016 Rio Olympics. And 2 months before the Olympic trials, I had a workout on a Tuesday and I ran so fast, like went to bed that night thinking like, dang, I feel good. Like I'm ready for this. This is going to be an incredible season. And the Wednesday I woke up and I had another really big workout on the schedule. And I saw that workout. I felt my hamstrings kind of be like super tight because I had just gone the fastest I had ever gone the day before. And I was like, okay, well, I see this workout. My hamstrings are tight, but I can't miss this workout because if I miss this workout, I'm not doing everything I can. If I don't do everything I can, then I won't make the Olympics. If I don't make the Olympics, I'll let everyone down. So I need to work out anyways. And so I choose to work out. And halfway through, my coach is like, Sarah, you look a bit tired today. Like, let's shut it down here. And I'm a crazy person in that moment. I'm like, no, you can't make me stop. Like, I have to be able to do this. So I keep going and I'm like, no, I'll play a game with you. Like if I run the next interval slower, I'll stop. But if I run the next interval the same or better, you have to let me keep going. So he's like, okay, go ahead. And I'm like charging down the track and about 30 meters away from the finish line, like I'm almost done this interval. I have this sensation that feels like a Ziploc bag is like full of air in the back of my leg. And then it just feels like someone stomps on it and it explodes and makes this like gunshot sound. And I realize in that moment, like I have just ripped an inch tear in my hamstring. And I'm heartbroken because this is 2 months before the 2016 Olympic trials. And I've been like training for this and I'm in such incredible shape and I have all this like weight and pressure on me that like I'm Sarah Wells the Olympian. I've now been known as that for 4 years. And so Sarah Wells the Olympian needs to make the Olympics. And having that hamstring tear, I end up trying to rehab back and I get back to about 90%. And at Olympic trials, you need to get top 3. And I had been a 4-time national champion. And I had always won the race when I was in it. And so I thought, okay, even at 90%, like I can get top 3. And that race, I like give it everything, go through like just the worst pain, like high pain tolerance. Like I pushed the limits on this race because it meant everything to me. And coming around the final corner, I just get like passed by one girl and then get passed by a second girl. And now I'm like fighting at hurdle 10, the last hurdle, like fighting for the line. And I get passed by a third girl and I get 4th. And I get 4th by half a second. And I'm heartbroken because I feel like I've spent 4 years wasting my life pursuing this goal, having a title, like actually reaching the pinnacle of my sport, having this title. And now Sarah Wells, the Olympian, doesn't make the Olympics. And
after that happened, how long did it take for you to go to your next practice after that loss?
So 8 months.
8 months from that moment, 8 months to get back onto the track because you were thinking, hey, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm retired.
Yeah. Like it felt like the worst breakup of all time. Like I felt like I had been dumped on my ass by the love of my life who I saw, all this, like we had the magical wedding and the perfect house and, and now I just got like thrown to the curb. And I actually took the year off of sport for the next 8 months. Like I didn't go to practice. I didn't go to training. I didn't do anything. I said like, I'm taking a minute here. And in those 8 months was when I realized this theory that I just had spoke about, like that you don't build self-belief through achievements, you build it through action. Because as devastated as I was in those 8 months and like the refusal to be able to show up to the track without bawling my eyes out, I actually still believed in myself more strongly after not making the Olympic Games.
Well, was your time in that race, was it actually a pretty good time? And then just these three women did an incredible job? Or was your injury really setting you back and you were way below your personal best?
I was definitely like behind my personal best by about like point 0.6 or point 0.7 of a second. And so that's relatively substantial in our sport.
If you would have done your personal best, would you have won that race?
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah. And I think I was in shape to run a new personal best that season, given what I saw 2 months prior on that workout. Like, it was insane. Like, it's still heartbreaking for me to think about the fact that I didn't get to see the training come to life in a race because I got injured and I sat down. I lost 2 months in that moment. It's like, God, what was in there? What was that time? And like, it like gives me goosebumps right now to think about. Like, yeah, and it was like the lowest I've probably like ever been.
For the current injury that you have, like would things like stem cell or some of these like new things that are out, does that help with recovering in these types of injuries?
So because it's in your bone and it's a stress fracture, like stem cells, maybe I need to explore that a bit more to be able to really understand. But there's not much else you can do. It's a bone. Like, you just have to let it heal. And there's some like inconclusive modalities that like we don't know if they actually work or not, that it's like a bone stimulator and it's something, but like, does it actually work? Who knows? I'm just paying a ton of money. And
Yeah,
so
like those vibrating plates are supposed to be good for bones, right?
right, exactly. So yeah, I should look into that stem cells a bit further. But the other thing that I've seen around is this thing called bone cement, and you basically like inject this like cement-like substance, and they use it on people who have to get like heart surgery and they have to like cut open their sternum, and obviously that's like a massive recovery process. But with this bone cement, they can put your sternum back together so that it's not like as painful to like take a breath for so long. So, but that's so invasive, and like I think if I were to do that, you know, I either retire or like there's no time to do that before 2020 at this point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How did now we're going a bit out of order, but
No.
pull us back to the beginning here. How did you get into running? How did you realize you were a good runner? Did you have some role models or some mentors
Mm-hmm.
kind of said like, "Hey, Sarah, like you should consider running because on the playground you're the fastest kid or something." Like, how did you get into it?
Yeah. So I actually thought I was the least athletic human on the planet in high school. I tried out for like every single team, like soccer, badminton, volleyball, like literally every single sport. And I got cut from every single one of those teams because I just didn't have the skill set. Like I had never really formally trained. I kind of experimented with like sports here and there on club teams, but never really dove into anything. And so I was just so crappy at all these sports. And so in grade 9, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just the least athletic human on the planet then. Like, I can't do any sports. Like, no one wants me. This is terrible. But I had a high school teacher see me in gym class, and they said exactly that. Like, you know, you should try track and field. And I was like, oh, like running sucks. Like, running is so terrible. But I was relatively fast. Like, it was something I could do. Like, I could run to the ball in soccer, get there and be like, what do you want me to do with this? And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll go out for the team. And they don't make cuts. So I made that team. And I found hurdles. And that high school teacher happened to be a varsity coach at the University of Toronto. And so his name is Dave Hunt. And he had kind of like took me under his wing. He's like, no, I believe you have what it takes. Like, you can do this. And I experimented with hurdles. I did fairly well early on. And within 8 months, I made my very first world youth team. And I went to Marrakesh, Morocco, and was like, oh, this is a cool way to see the world. Like, I guess I'm pretty good. And that high school teacher and we stayed coach athlete for the next 9 years until we made the Olympics together, which is relatively unheard of. And
Is he still your coach now?
he's not my coach right now. I ended up experimenting like after the Olympics, kind of trying to say, okay, look, I've been here for 9 years. Like we've done a lot together, but I think I just need a new stimulus. Like my body needs a different style of training, like something to bring, me to that next level. And it was really hard because he had done so much for me and he was the reason I made it to the Olympics. Like I truly believe his program, his belief in me, like it's what got me there. But I also knew that like in order to bring myself to that next level, like I needed something different. And so like I got into the sport because of him. I feel like he was such an incredible mentor. I'm so grateful he ever was a teacher at my high school, like how I got so fortunate to be in that scenario. I'll never know, but it was, like life-changing.
Having a mentor that believes in you and can identify kind of your talent and gift early on is, I had that with math actually too. And my high school teacher said to me, I was going to study like accounting or economics, and he's like, just promise me you will take at least one college math course. And did it, and then I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. Maybe I'll just stick with it. And I ended up going on and getting like a master's in financial engineering.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't have if this guy didn't just say, hey, I think you ought to stick with this.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears for a second. You were on The Amazing Race. What was that like?
Yeah. So The Amazing Race is insane. It's truly a race. It is like what you see on TV, like when the people are in race mode, like that's a real thing. Like there is no stopping. You ignore all bodily functions. There's no eating, no peeing, no anything. Like when you are in race mode, you are running, sprinting, challenge to challenge, like going here, going there, grabbing cabs, driving yourself, like whatever it is, you're all over the place. Like as you guys have seen on the show, like you wake up at random times of the day sometimes. Like your call time might be at like 1 a.m. or like 3 a.m. or you have a flight that's like, leaves super duper early, so you have to be at the airport so early. And like that sleep deprivation over time really adds up. And you get what they've like labeled race brain, which is like a real thing where you don't think like a normal human. Like you're in such panic. You're so sleep deprived. You haven't really eaten or like paid attention or like drank water. Like it's not that you're not allowed to. We just like choose not to because you don't want to have to stop and pee. And so it's like, it's chaos. And like, depending on how long you're on the race for, like it's a lot for your body to endure. And I think as an athlete, I expected to be able to handle that with like no problem, like, oh, they don't know my life. Like I'm so good at pressure and stress and like I can run here, there and sleep never, like we take red eyes all the time for like flights or speeches. Like I got this. And it is a different ball game when you are living at a level of 752 adrenaline at all times. So it's an experience.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching it. Maybe even tomorrow night because I'm going to be in Toronto tomorrow. So maybe.
Yeah. I know.
But that's
will have come out by the time this podcast airs. Can I tell you what the craziest challenge I had to do?
Yeah.
So craziest challenge I had to do was we were up in the Arctic in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. And it just so happened it was the coldest day in like a bazillion years. I have no idea how many years. It was minus 27 degrees Celsius before wind chill. So that's like minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Like it is chilly. And that's before wind chill. And so we're out like running around doing challenges all like for the first like half of the day. Already we're doing these challenges. And I'm a person who like needs my hands. Like I can't wear gloves and like, like do the challenge. Like one of the things we had to do was like ice fishing. And so like, I'm like kneeling down, hands on the thing, like getting the hook ready, like with my hands exposed to this air that's miserable and the freezing cold, like slushy water is all over me. And so I'm out there already freezing my ass off and my hands are going numb already. Then we ripped this clue and it was a roadblock, which means only one person can do the challenge. And my partner had previously done the roadblock beforehand. And so it was like the partner who did not do the last challenge has to do this one. And so it's me. It's guaranteed me. And we rip it open and it says we have to go into the biggest Arctic lake, Great Slave Lake, and they've cut out like a human-sized hole that we have to get into, then swim under 3 feet of ice. That's how thick the water is because it's so cold. Find the clue in the water, like underneath the ice, and then come up over there where there's another like just human-sized hole carved out.
What was the distance from between the two holes?
I want to say like 20 meters, like not crazy far.
20 meters? That's pretty, or 20 feet.
Okay, maybe not, I would say, okay, maybe I was in like delusional state. I don't even know. Okay, maybe like 10 meters.
It sounds terrible.
But 10, like even 10 meters, like it wasn't.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely terrible and terrifying.
But to the point where it was like, what if I go that way or this way? Like I could die. Like.
But did they have like scuba divers underneath and dry suits, like in case something?
Like, might have had someone under there, like no one I ever saw. Like I was freaking out, and they did have a rope that went like under one hole, like you could follow it, like so that you could see where the direction you should be heading towards the next hole. But I was like full panic mode, went into like hyperventilating, like couldn't control my own body, which is something I like to think I can do well. And I got into, well, actually, first of all, they make you kneel down, dunk your face in the water because cold water makes your heart rate lower. So you have to prepare your body for shock. And so you have to dunk your face in the water 3 times before you actually get your whole body into it. And you can't wear gloves because they want you to be able to follow the rope. They want you to like slip off. And so no gloves. So my hands are already freezing. I now get into this water it's so cold that it has 3 feet of ice within it. And I start hyperventilating, freaking out. The gentleman, like the technician who's like kind of kneeling down, like making sure we're okay on the top of the ice. He's like, Sarah, I need you to calm your breath. I can't let you go until you calm your breath. And I'm like, okay. I'm like dying. And I'm just like ugly cry, national television, like can't even deal. Like I'm like, okay. And then they're like, hey, I'm sitting in this water for so long. They're like, I'm going to have to take you out. If you don't go, I'm going to have to take you out. And I'm like, no. So then I like take this like deep breath, like use every ounce of my sports psychology, try to like override my intuition and get into it. And so I take like the shallowest breath and I like go under, and I think I go deep enough, but then I like hit the ice because I'm still not like going down deep enough. And so then I have this like full panic mode where I'm like, oh my God. And I imagine myself, like, I'm like, I should go back. Like, I'm going to run out of air. I'm going to die. Like, this is terrible. And for whatever reason, I don't go back to the top. And I just kind of like rotate around that rope and start pulling myself like under the ice. And it was the best thing I could have done because it was the only way, like, I think I could get low enough without freaking out. And so then I get under the ice. I like, all of a sudden, like, you know, I see that there's like the opening, it's here, like I've made it through. And so I'm like, okay, go. I go up and then I'm like, oh shoot, the clue, like the reason I'm down here. And so then I have to like swim back a little bit, like grab the clue, grab it. And then I like go swim back up to the top, like put it up there. I'm like, get me out of here. Like, I hate this.
And cold freaks me out. I can never do the cold plunges at places even, no less.
Oh, it's awful. Your body goes into panic. Like you think you're dying. And I just told you I can't swim. Like that was the whole other thing.
Oh yeah, that sounds terrible. I want to be respectful of your time. Can you quickly tell us about the Believe Initiative, and also where can people like find out more about you or see you at an upcoming talk that you're giving?
Yes. So the Believe Initiative is this foundation or like organization I started in that 8 months that I took off away from sport when I wasn't running, because I had said, like, you know what? I actually believe in myself more strongly after not making the Olympics. And every single time I've shared the story during that time of like, you know, this is what I did. I was resilient. I got back up. I believed in myself and I made the Olympics. And then I say like, you know, but I was resilient. I believed myself. I got back up. And this time it just didn't work out. And far more often people would tell me they were inspired by the time where I didn't make the Olympics over the time where I did. And I think I just recognized that like, yeah, like I had an opportunity to inspire others with my story of, you know, failure, quote unquote. And I recognized that like I believed in myself more strongly. I got back up. I showed myself a strength. And so you don't build self-belief through achievements, you build self-belief through action. And so through this program, we go into high schools and we have students pick a passion they have and a problem they want to solve. And they use that passion to solve that problem, and they build self-belief through action. And as you and I just spoke about, we have mentors in our life that help us find what that passion was for us. And it helped us believe in ourselves to be able to then be the people we are and see the success we have had because someone believed in us first. And not everyone's going to have that person in their life. And so I want to be that person for as many people as possible. And so the Believe Initiative has them, me present and other Olympians and mindset coaches, like actors, musicians, like whoever it can be, to help them connect with those students and have someone believe in them first and say, you know what, that's a great passion. Run with it. Go solve that problem. Yes, great idea. Go do it. And so this program was created to be that person for as many people as possible and have students build self-belief through action. So it's been super fun. People can check out more at our website, believeinitiative.com. We're looking to run events in a bunch of different communities in the US and in Canada. So if people know of an area of schools or universities, like whatever it may be, where we can come and run programming, we'd love to hear from them. And in terms of next speech and where people can check that out, it's kind of, my schedule is crazy. Most recently, or like upcoming on Wednesday in a few days, I will be speaking at UC Santa Barbara and to a bunch of students and talking about exactly this, the importance of being resilient, the power of believing in themselves, and helping them spark their idea for their Believe Passion project, where they'll take the passion they have and the problem they want to solve and use the passion to solve the problem. So yeah, send me an email, believeinitiative.com. You can contact me through there, or Instagram or Twitter. I'm Sarah Wells 400mh, which is like Sarah Wells 400 meter hurdles, Sarah with an H, because everyone asks.
Well, thank you so much for joining the show today. This was awesome.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, I look forward to having you at one of my upcoming Bullseye events.
Yeah, I know. February, right?
Yep. I'll keep you posted. All right. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Leverage Podcast from getleverage.com. Please let us know what you think. Rate and subscribe on iTunes. Leverage is an on-demand outsourcing platform that helps small business owners and entrepreneurs scale their business. We have experts that can help set up marketing and sales funnels, your email marketing, podcasts, social media creation, paid media, and much more. Grow your business overnight with a team of experts you can trust to deliver. Accomplish more. Visit getleverage.com.